Down in the depths of Molten Core is this chest. It's defended by Major Domo Executus, the second to last boss in the raid. And the ordeal to summon him in the first place is a long one, but I want to talk about what's available after he's been defeated, inside the cache of the Fire Lord. Almost all raid bosses and almost all bosses in World of Warcraft drop loot from their corpses when you kill them, but the Major Domo isn't like that. His treasure is in this chest, and it is full of goodies. And today, I want to talk about these two in particular. Let's start with this one at the top, the Eye of Divinity. It's a trinket, only equipable by priests, and with no effects, and it says that you can see movement when you peer into the eye. And should we right-click on it, we're given the option to peer even deeper inside. The eye grants us a vision of a battle deep in Lordaeron. Battling against a huge horde of undead is a lone woman. Using holy magic, she manages to take out loads of them, but it's all in vain. Her life is taken by the resurrected corpses of the very peasants she was trying to protect. Why this eye was ever in the possession of the Major Domo, I don't think we'll ever know, but now it's in ours, and it's time to investigate this mystery. So, this is what we know. It's in Lordaeron, and there's loads of zombies. This means it could be in any of these areas. Lordaeron is a huge kingdom, but let's assume that they don't want us looking around the undead leveling zones, and limit our search to the Plaguelands. The battle was described as a, quote, terrifying conflict. So, where did the terrifying conflicts happen in Lordaeron? We've got two big candidates, Anderhol, where Uther the Lightbringer was killed, and Stratholm, where Arthas culled its population. I have no doubt that the first priests to recover the Eye of Divinity were stumped. Anderhall is full of undead, but empty of clues, and when you go to Stratholm, you run into the same problem. But the trick isn't to look inside the instance itself, but outside, near the city gates, where there's a secret route. And this secret route takes you to a cave, and this cave takes you to a hidden corner in the Eastern Plaguelands. This is the place described in the vision. Usually, players who'd explored this section of the Plaguelands would have noticed nothing out of the ordinary. It's a fairly nondescript area, but a priest with the Eye of Divinity trinket equipped will see something new. The ghost of Eris Havenfire. And Eris is pleased to see us. This is because the Eye called us here, as we are a powerful priest. We discover that we came here for redemption, not ours, but Eris Havenfire's. During the culling of Stratholm, Eris tried to help Stratholm's residents evacuate, but the undead were no match for her, and so they all died. This incredibly tragic event bound the spirits of the dead to where they died, and left Eris reliving her death and her failure. But we can change that. If we were to relive her memories for her, but instead save the day, we could break this curse and free everyone's spirits. What comes next is essentially a minigame. A large continuing crowd of peasants will be swarmed by a continuing crowd of undead, and our job is to save 50 of them before 15 are slain. This is a difficult quest, mostly because nobody else is allowed to interfere. You have to do this alone. Breaking this rule summons a demon called the Cleaner to come out and kill you. And it is terrifying, by the way. There's something about it that just freaks me out. You can be buffed beforehand though, so it's best to bring everything you can with you. Priest buffs, obviously, druid buffs, paladin buffs, mage buffs, world buffs, potions, you name it. If you want to win this challenge, you need to accept that you can't save them all. You have to strictly prioritize where you can help the most people and save the most lives. No matter how good of a healer you are, you must accept that there will be casualties. And don't forget about the undead. It's a very precarious situation, having to cast heals in one hand and throw holy water from the other. Victory only comes from intimacy with every individual page of your spellbook. Oh, and if you fail, Eris won't respawn for another 2 hours across the whole realm. But anyway, assuming victory, Eris wants a word. She says only this: "Your tenacity and courage are astounding, priest. You have earned the right to hold the splinter of Nordrassil. Only one task remains. The Eye of Shadow must be recovered. Scour the world." Well, that was ominous. The item she gave us, the Splinter of Nordrassil, is a small part taken from the World Tree, presumably before the events of Warcraft 3. The tooltip says that once it's combined with the Eye of Divinity and an Eye of Shadow, it forms into something called Benediction. So, where can we find an Eye of Shadow? They are an incredibly rare item that can be found in one of two places. Either on the demons of Dark Whisper Gorge in the bottom of Winterspring, or in the demons of the Tainted Scar in the bottom of the Blasted Lands. Farming an Eye of Shadow from these demons is painful, their drop rate is really low. But thankfully, if you've already been to Molten Core, chances are someone in your raid may already have an Eye of Shadow. And this is because it has a 100% drop rate from Lord Kazak, a huge demon also in the Tainted Scar. And so there are 3 ways to get an Eye of Shadow. 1, by farming for a long time. 2, by getting lucky in a raid. Or 3, buying one on the auction house. Now, regardless as to how you get one, once you have one, all you need to do is right-click the branch of Nordrassil. And just like that, Benediction has been formed, and your quest is complete. Benediction must be one of the coolest weapons in the game. Not only are the stats really good, and its model looks really cool, but it also has a unique ability to transform into anathema. Whilst the Eye of Divinity is proudly adorned atop Benediction, the Eye of Shadow is atop anathema. Benediction is an incredibly good healing staff for holy and disciplined priests, but anathema is for shadow priests. This weapon highlights the dichotomy between light and dark, the two elements that all priests are always somewhere in between. Without a doubt, it's one of WoW's most iconic weapons. Next up is the second item of significance in the cache, the Ancient Petrified Leaf. And if you're specifically a hunter, you can right-click it and get a quest. The objective of this quest simply says, find the owner of the Ancient Petrified Leaf. Good luck, it's a big world. Now, for many people, the first reaction to this objective is, no, I'm not doing that. And that's fair enough. But just like with the previous quest, we can make some assumptions and narrow down our search significantly. Okay, so it's a leaf. What do leaves belong to? That's right, trees. And this is an ancient leaf, so it must belong to an ancient tree. Now, where are ancient trees? Stereotypically in the lands of the Night Elves on Kalimdor. And assuming they don't want us to check out Night Elf leveling zones, that could mean it's in Felwood or maybe even Winterspring. Whilst Winterspring is forested, there aren't really any woods around. And Felwood, whilst being a wood obviously, is absolutely huge. The trip from its south to north or north to south is always far longer than you think it's going to be. But after a long and tiring search, you can come across these 3 frozen, petrified, ancient trees in a circle. Upon standing between them with the petrified leaf in hand, all 3 break back into life. The leaf we have was once of Vartrus the Ancient, the one in front of us. He thanks us and explains that they are the Ancients, protectors of the once great forest. Physically, they were destroyed 10,000 years ago, when Archimonde and the Burning Legion marched upon Hyjal, though spiritually they're still here with us. Since we did Vartrus a solid, the trees can now offer us 3 different tasks that will reward us with the secrets of the Ancients. So now, this adventure branches into 3 different quests. Let's start with this guy over here, Hastat the Ancient. He offers to use one of his leaves to make us a quiver of the likes we've never seen before. But in return, he requires the sinew from an adult blue dragon. Shouldn't be too hard, right? It's never easy, but on the other side of Hyjal are some blue dragons already, in Winterspring. So we can take the road north and then through Timbermore Hold out to the other side, and then all the way across Winterspring until we get to their cave. There are many dragons here, but none of them I'd call adults, though they are blue enough to get us a sinew, but at a low drop rate. It is very possible to get your mature blue dragon sinew from here, though if you're not entirely sold on the idea of massively depopulating a species of dragon, there is another way, a more reliable way. Azyrgos. Much like Lord Kazakh from earlier, Azyrgos is a world boss who roams around in Ajara, not too far away. A full raid of adventurers is required to take this dragon down. But when Azyrgos has been slain, there is a 100% drop chance for the mature blue dragon sinew. And once it's been extracted from the dragon, we can hand it back in to Hastat. And in return, he gives us the ancient sinew-wrapped lamina, a unique 18-slot quiver that increases ranged attack speed by 15%. And the rewards only get better from here. Returning back to Vartrus, his quest is very interesting. The Burning Legion, the army of demons who destroyed Felwood many millennia ago, are still active on this earth, and some of them are prowling around in disguise. Vartrus knows of 4 of them, and he wants them defeated before we'll get our reward. He gives us a piece of petrified bark, and inscribed on it are the rough locations of the 4 demons he wants you to slay. And at the end of the message is a warning that we must go this alone. We want the demons to think that they're not in danger before we strike. The first is Simone the Seductress, a succubus roaming Ungoro crater. With not much information, it's really hard to pin down where Simone is, but eventually, somewhere in the crater is a troll. This female troll is called Simone the Inconspicuous, and when we challenge her, she reveals her true form, and we kill her and take her head. The next, back across the Eastern Kingdoms, is Clinfran the Crazed, who's taking the form of Franklin the Friendly, and he roams around near the entrance of Blackrock Mountain in the Burning Steppes. Next up, all the way down in Silithus in Kalimdor, is Solenor the Slayer, who starts off as a gnome called Nelson the Nice. He can be found around the gates of Ahn'Qiraj. And finally, in northern Winterspring, is a Tauren called Artorius the Amiable, who's actually Artorius the Doombringer. Now this is a huge cross-continental journey, but I did make it seem as if it was easy. It's really not. Simone summons her pet, Precious. Clinfran hits like a truck. Solenor starts the fight enraged, meaning he'll shrug off a lot of your abilities. And Artorius does loads of shadow damage. But if we've gotten through Molten Core, surely we can handle this. Returning to Vartrus with 4 decapitated demon heads will get us an ancient rune-etched stave. On the tooltip for this item, it says that if we manage to get an enchanted black dragon sinew and combine these 2 items together, we can make rhok'delar, longbow of the ancient keepers. And so where do we get this black dragon sinew? From a quest from Stoma, the 3rd tree, the one we haven't talked to yet. Similar to the first quest, we need to just go kill a big mature dragon. Stoma says that this is a simple task. It's not a simple task. We need to slay the black dragon Onyxia in her lair. Gaining access to Onyxia's lair requires the completion of a long and arduous quest chain. If I were to explain the context around this quest chain and how we get into this lair, it would quintuple the length of this video, so I'm going to leave it for now and take us straight inside. Onyxia is a raid boss, just like Azyrgos or Lord Kazakh, and the fight to slay her is legendary and peak fantasy. She drops lots of interesting stuff, but of course what we want is this. If we give this to Stoma, Stoma returns it to us, but enchanted. The perfect bowstring. Combining this piece of sinew with the ancient rune-etched stave creates it. rhok'delar. This bow is incredibly powerful, and is the pride of any hunter who manages to get their hands on one. It'd be understandable to assume that this is the questline over, but there's one more thing. Vartris has an extra present for us. Lok'delar, Stave of the Ancient Keepers. While it's not as useful and not as famous as rhok'delar, it's a great item with a great story. And there we have it, a world-spanning hunter questline resulting in a trio of great new items. Rhok'delar, Longbow of the Ancient Keepers, Lok'delar, Stave of the Ancient Keepers, and the Ancient Sinew-Wrapped Lamina, so easily forgotten. And those are the two great quest lines that start from this cache and take you all over the world. These are stories that only other people of your class have experienced. It's this kind of thing that makes your playthrough unique to all the others. And if you want to hear more stories like this, please subscribe. And thanks for watching. And an extra thank you to YouTube members Morian, Nightseeker, Dark Lord Grimace, Patrick Manhora, Skoon, Silux, Lewis H, Lurend, Sovereign, Cherish, Miffy, Hydroxyl, Danson, Surfrock, Edward Russellduck, Dark Owl, O'Barrel Daurado, AC, Storrent, Carlo Matic, Overconfident, Nick, Chris Geyer, Ted, Sasquatch, and Vol'jin Slayer. Oh, and I completely forgot, in Season of Discovery they added a third item for rogues, but it's not a very good story, so I didn't include it. Bye.